We tend to get ideas by being irked a little bit about something that doesn't seem efficient, doesn't seem right, something that could be improved systematically with the sorts of tools that we have available. There's some kind of matchmaking process in our brains that matches what the toolkits that we have to tackle problems from clinical informatics, from bioinformatics, from public health informatics, and the deficiencies that we may see in a system or in a set of questions that have not yet been answered. An example is the Personally Controlled Health Record Project, which is well over a decade old, where we saw numerous issues across the health system where data were never available for a patient at the point of care. We saw issues where the data was under the stewardship of organizations that didn't always have the patient's best interest in mind, and we saw situations where we wanted to do research across populations but couldn't get the right data sets.
From my perspective, there's an interesting finding in almost any piece of data that you look at. I don't know if you've read the book Freakonomics, but there's a real parallel here to thinking about association between data sets that we wouldn't necessarily think are related. And in fact, in terms of health, there's always downstream from an event of significance in the population, whether it's an introduced drug or it's an event like 9/11, there's always a downstream health effect that can be noticed. And it's just thinking through a problem to think about where those effects exist. And I think that's a really exciting part of the job, is to think about those questions and think about, the empirical data. So, for instance, a lot of people in epidemiology are working in the area of disease modeling, thinking about how to predict an event through simulation.
The trick, really, I think, is understanding that there are certain phenomena that will have an effect at a scale that will enable that effect to be visible across a population. Frankly, when we first started the Vioxx study, I thought it was a reach that we would be able to see the impact of COX-2 inhibitors on something as global as myocardial infarctions. But when we plotted the data, the effect was dramatic. When John and I were looking at the impact of airline travel on mortality and the impact of the September 11th flight restrictions on mortality from influenza. Again, something you would think, maybe I can see it, maybe I can't, but the scale of the effect would be such that perhaps you could, since flight travel was restricted across the country and beyond. So one trick is figuring out what you can see with the data sets that you have available, and to match the impact with the scale that you can resolve in your data.